We get ready for Rams-Niners tomorrow night at SoFi Stadium, the Palace in Inglewood. As my Rams, I predicted 14-3 this season, guys. 14-3, and I'm still alive. And I remember when I told Les Snead this, when we were at Rams training camp, I was hosting Chalk Talk with DeMarco Farr. I said, Les, 14-3, and he said, you're a positive young man. And I said, Les, that's why you're my BFF. And the great Les Snead, General Manager of our Los Angeles Rams, joins us right now on the Sedano Kap Morning Show.
Well, listen, they certainly look good out of the gate here. There's no question about it. A big win this past week and a huge game coming up here on Thursday, which you can hear here on the home of the Rams, 710 ESPN, Thursday Night Football. We had Big Wit on yesterday, Cap, so now we have Les Snead on for this big game. Les, we were just talking about just the quick turnaround on a Thursday, right? I mean, you guys have dealt with some level of injuries, as every team has, certainly. But on a week like this, like, how challenging is it when you do have guys who have been on the shelf or are still nurturing some injuries? Like, how does that work on a week like this with just a couple of days to prepare?
It definitely let's call it impacts the challenge for sure. The challenge gets a lot tougher a lot of times, right? The body, you're going to feel a lot better even if you just needed a few more days to go play a game on Sunday, and that's just different also from just getting the let's call it the body to turn over and be ready to fire on all cylinders on a Thursday night, and I do think age probably, let's call it, seeps into that as well. As the younger you are, the faster you can recover. The older you are, it usually takes a little bit. You can still do some of the same things you could when you were young. Just takes a little bit longer to get over the soreness.
Hey, Les, would you just go through the schedule, meaning, like I was saying to George earlier, there's really no time to practice. Could you just go through what the team does from Sunday to Thursday in terms of walk-through, jog-through, and how there really isn't much practice time going into a Thursday night game?
Yeah, it's interesting, and sports science is going to bleed into it. I'll get into that here in a minute. But really, it starts Sunday after our game, where our let's call it athletic performance staff get our players. They stay in the locker room after the game a lot longer because they're going through intentional recovery in the locker room to get ready for this Thursday night game. And really, yesterday there's a couple of walkthroughs, so you're gonna basically implement a game plan, a lot simpler game plan than your normal game plan. You're gonna walk it through too. Here's where sports science does come into it. We will get on the field today. We probably will get the players up, and get them running. Where a lot of times pre-sports science and where we've evolved to, you always took the day off the day before a game, but there is definitely some evidence that says getting the players to move today will bleed right into Thursday night.
Gotcha. Les, I think that one of the most impressive parts of how the Rams are doing thus far, and it goes back to last season as well, is the defensive front. And I just was wondering if you could tell us about, from your perspective and your job and what you do, how long in advance of Aaron Donald's retirement you were already thinking about not replacing him as an individual, but really rebuilding the front seven, knowing that he wasn't going to be around forever?
I'm not sure I could give you the exact timeline, but philosophically here, we've always felt like you can impact the other team's offense more from the front four, front five, front seven. Just the way and it's going to be different philosophies depending on what building you're in. And there was that time as Aaron was getting in, the back nine of his career, where you probably at the macro level knew it would be very hard to replace an Aaron Donald with an Aaron Donald. So what you knew you wanted to do, though, is still have a very impactful front four, front five, and it would likely be without Aaron Donald, and it would likely be without just one person or one player being as dominant as him. So then at that point you started kind of reinforcing, retooling, trying to acquire players so that at a point in time there would be a stable stock of 4+ players who come in and affect the other side's offense from let's call it a 3-point stance.
Les Snead, the general manager of the Rams here. You know, it's funny, Les, you just kind of made my mind kind of go to a specific place. So I was on a flight recently, and, I was like, it's a long flight, cross country. And I was scrolling through the movies, and I hadn't seen the movie Moneyball in a long time. I'm sure you've seen it, right? Brad Pitt, the Oakland A's story. Have you seen that movie before?
You know what? I've read the book, haven't seen the movie.
Okay. Well, either way, you've read the book, which is even better.
I really enjoyed the book.
Yeah, you've read the book, which is even better, which kind of gets me to my point. In that book and in the movie as well, they talk about the Oakland A's having to replace production, right? And there's a specific meeting where they talk about, like, hey, they're losing Jason Giambi at this time in the early 2000s. He eventually goes to the Yankees, right? And the scouts are in there trying to figure out how to replace Giambi. And Billy Beane says, guys, you're thinking about this wrong. We're not trying to replace Jason Giambi. We're trying to replace the production, right? We got to figure out, and that may not mean one guy, right? And that's kind of what you've done, to Cap's point, in regards to redoing the front in a way that you had this guy who was once in a lifetime as far as being a talent and a player and such a significant contributor to your championship seasons. But you've been able to do this because you're not looking at it as a one-for-one approach. And to me, that just kind of sticks out to me because I feel like in general, you guys have taken different approaches and have been very nimble in the way you've built different rosters. But the thing is, to me, the most recent version of this is the way you've drafted defensively. Last year, your defense cost you $24 million, your starters at least. It's just an unbelievable tribute to what you guys and testament to what you guys are able to do in that front office, applying these kinds of skill sets to understand, hey, again, we don't have to replace one for one. We just got to fill the gaps and fill the production. I feel like you guys have taken some criticism in the past about your approach on how you approach the draft, but it feels like there's tons of validation now. How does that feel? Like, what was it like to kind of do the thing a little differently than most teams do and get the results that you've gotten?
Well, I think starting with Billy Beane, let's call it intellectual, but I'll call that's probably a reasonable approach, a rational approach, where if Jason Giambi is a unique player once in a lifetime, maybe there's 4 or 5, maybe there's 10 in a life, whatever it is just hard to go back to back with those players. Usually if there's more than one of those, they end up somewhere else. It's harder. It's less reasonable to approach it that way, but it is actually realistic where, okay, we need to replace this skill set, this production. How do we do it in a manner that is actually realistic and not, let's call it, not a hope. A lot of people say hope's not a strategy. So and I think at the end of the day, I think the fulfillment comes that, okay, as a team, as y'all open the segment, we've won 3 out of 4. We've got a big game Thursday night, so we want to win. Point being is the fulfillment in all of it is over the last couple of years, and especially, like you said, on that side of that defensive side of the ball, where a lot of those players are on their rookie contracts. They've committed, they've cared about, and they've gelled. There's a lot of chemistry there. They've grown together, and it's led to successful results for all of us, right, in this building, all of the fans in L.A.
Yeah.
So that's the fulfilling part.
Right. No question. And again, you guys have taken this approach since 2020 of not attending the combine, or at least you not attending the combine in person because, look, there's just a lot of obligations when you're there. You guys rely more on your in-person meetings, individual scouting, film, analytics, to your point earlier. And I've heard also kind of this proprietary survey test, I guess, that you give the kids when they're coming out. Like, again, that's an approach that was not the normal approach in football. You're kind of zigging while everybody is zagging. What led to that type of approach?
I think that, as you said, we do have we have individuals in our building that do attend the combine, but at the macro level, there's a base rate where all 32 teams are going to utilize the combine, right, for usefulness for their program. And then at the end of the day, to really get the most out of it, you're going to have to be intentional, right? What are you trying to accomplish? What is the main goal of what you're doing every hour of that day or every phase of the combine? And from there to be innovative sometimes and get the most be the most efficient with your people, your time, let's call it this, your brain power is you're going to be in the margins there. You're going to be innovative in the margins and how you go about, right, utilizing every, let's call it, tool that is available, every platform that is available along the calendar, let's call it leading up to a draft.
Les, I love that we're having like a philosophical conversation about how you do your job and how the Rams build a roster. It leads me to a player that last week against the Colts had a really great game, and that's Cam Curl, who had 2 interceptions, including the one that really shut the game down. But a player like that, who's a 7th-round pick out of Arkansas 5+ years ago, who's with Washington for a short period of time, how do you go about A, identifying, and B, knowing that he could be an impact guy, or maybe you don't know? I mean, just in terms of what Cam Curl and how you guys found him and what he's done so far, what do you think?
What is interesting, if we blend, let's call it blend, the preparation for a collegiate draft with the preparation for unrestricted free agency, and that is where we acquired Cam. But Cam was someone that we appreciated coming out. And there are times, right, where you're going to try to analyze where your bets, where your predictions on how a player performs in the NFL, were you more accurate or less accurate? And especially when those players are like him that are later in the draft, let's call it picked later in the draft. But there was appreciation within your ecosystem. Didn't come to our team initially, right? And there's probably plenty of times in that draft we could have drafted. But what you then do is try to follow those players' careers. And in Cam's case, right, he goes there and probably exceeds expectations as a 7th rounder. And then at that point, we asked him to join the Rams family. So that's how sometimes the draft process also still, let's call it, impacts the free agent process 4 or 5 years later from the draft.
Yeah, and Les, we've focused a lot so far this morning, and appreciate your time. We focused a lot on the defensive side of the ball. I just want to go over to the offense for this reason. One of the things that I've been talking about since the beginning of this year is how impressive it is that it's 2 running backs, it's 3, 4, could maybe go 5 wide receivers, and it's at least 3 tight ends. And by the way, the guy that you drafted with your first pick, which was the 2nd round, he wasn't even dressed this past weekend at tight end. So there's 4, but you're at least using 3. This philosophy of multiple players at every position contributing as opposed to just focusing on one guy. Again, where's that philosophy coming from?
I think it overall is a philosophy that we think we're best when all of our offensive eligibles are involved in the game for many reasons. Again, there's so many reasons of why. And at the end of the day, I think as this season goes on, it's going to evolve even more than it is right now in terms of as we continue gelling, as we continue evolving to who we're going to be and how we're going to be in flow, right? What personnel packages are going to be best to be in flow. And that's going to change, too, depending on, right, the enemy has to say how they try to stop us. And also the more stuff you put on tape, you're going to definitely have to become a little bit different team in the middle of the season and even later in the bottom quarter of the season than you are right now.
Yeah,
Les Snead,
really interesting. General
Manager of your LA Rams with us here on your home of the Rams, 710 ESPN. Look, to talk more about the offense, right? Like Puka is having an incredible season. I mean, he's been so good for you in the years that you've had him. I mean, he can literally do it all. He can catch the ball. He can catch it in traffic. He can block. He can run the ball. I mean, the only thing I don't think I recall seeing him do is throw the ball, and I'm sure that may come at some point too. But just, this kid, again, another, example of you guys really mining the draft in the 5th round out of BYU and just, has he even outlived your expectations on what you thought he could do?
I can say this. He's either outlived our expectations or we definitely should have picked him a little bit earlier. But here, the neat thing is, the neat thing that comes together is we did have a vision for him, and we really appreciate the skill set that he brought to the table, and we felt like that was a genre that we didn't have. Right, the bigger, the stronger receiver, and we did project him to be that we could acquire him later in the draft for some of the ways we go about it. But at the end of the day, yes, for him to come in and truly, let's call it, not only be dominating the NFL right now. The neat thing about Puka is, and I think that's probably why he has exceeded expectations. It just seems like, right, he is wired to really enjoy what he's doing in the moment, and boy, does his domination just ooze. I'm having fun doing this.
Oh yeah,
and that's just I can say that's an igniting, contagious way to play football.
Yeah.
And I think our team, teams, fans, everyone kind of gravitates off of that energy and how he plays the game.
Yeah, Les Cap. He's actually, I looked it up just now. He is the favorite. Granted, it's only several weeks into the season, but he's the current favorite for Offensive Player of the Year, and deservedly so at this point, Cappy.
I mean, all of the stats that he's put up, last week was insane. 13 catches, 170 yards. Hey, last thing for me is this. Are you happy
what we're
right
saying
now?
is he's got the lead after the first 18 holes.
That's right. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. After round one, he's the leader.
Yeah,
he's the leader.
A couple more rounds.
Right,
exactly.
right.
Yeah.
But Les, are you happy at least through 4 weeks? Because I look at that Philly game and it bothers me still because that's a game that I think the Rams should have won, and yet you kind of get another one last week against the Colts where I could make the argument that the Colts should have won. So it sort of balances out. But through 4 weeks, are you and Coach McVay, are you guys happy with where you are?
We're definitely satisfied. I think you hit the nail on the head on Philly, Indianapolis. That is one of the main reasons why during this journey of 17 weeks of however many months, right, from August to September to October to November to December to through all those holidays and all those things, you got to have that ironclad emotional control, because there's going to be some moments, right, where a loss just tastes really, really bad. That Philly loss tastes bad, right? And not necessarily because you gave up the lead, right? Philly came in and made some plays, but you drive down, there's a little bit of a self-inflicted wound. Even though they made a good play blocking a field goal, the enemy does have a say something. But what I'm trying to say is, you know what? You just gotta put that one away. You got to get to 30,000 feet as soon as possible, right? Your amygdala is going to be screaming, wow, that one stunk, right? But guess what? It's already Monday. It's already Tuesday. Sometimes you're playing on Thursday. So even after a win like Indianapolis, right, you got to get over that natural human nature of, okay, we're satisfied. We got the win, right? We actually came back this time versus driving down the field and not kicking the field goal. So however it goes, right, stay level, stay in the moment, know that every time an opponent comes into town, they want to win that game just as bad as you do, and it's going to be a heavyweight fight, and there's plenty of those. So that's what we're trying to do at this point in time.
Yeah, and you'll have a heavyweight fight on Thursday. Of course, you can hear it right here on 710 ESPN. Last one for you. Take me through your reaction, if you can remember how you felt when Matthew Stafford goes over the top, hits 2-2, and he gets that big touchdown, 88 yards or whatever it was. Take me through what you're feeling in the box or on the field or wherever the hell you were in the stadium at that point.
Oh, I'll take it right. Wherever we got the ball at, you're going, okay, look, we can go down, drive down, and it's like, wow, we're gonna get a chance to exercise that demon from the week before, right? Mm-hmm. Kick the walk-off field goal, and then all of a sudden, right, it's first play, drop, whoa, 2-2 is wide open. So now the ball is halfway in the air, and you're like, okay, I hope this thing's not overthrown. And then it's like, okay, let's come down with the catch. And then, wow, there's the catch, and it's like, okay, he might outrun. We know 2-2's fast, but you never know really where the player. And so all of those, and I don't even know how long that play lasted, but you could see where probably my brain, as I mentioned, frontal lobe, amygdala. There was a lot of moments there where no telling what was going on up in the wonderful organ that is the brain.
Oh, yeah, man. And by the way, how awesome was it to see that Matthew Stafford was mic'd and he gets hit. He's down on the ground. He realizes 2-2's running for the touchdown. And as Stafford is screaming down the sideline, I'm an effing dog. I'm an effing dog. And to see Stafford there with 2-2 celebrating in the end zone, and to see Puka, who was the first guy on the scene to congratulate 2-2, that was so awesome, man. Congratulations on the way this season started.
It is really neat to see teammates jacked for teammates, right?
Right.
Heck, that is something that doesn't happen naturally on every team, right? There is a chemistry. to see teammates jack for teammates. And the other thing, right, see Matthew Stafford, like we talked about with Aaron Donald, back 9 of his career. Not sure what hole he's on, but we do know he's on the final 9 holes somewhere. But the neat thing is, in that moment, there was an element that the game felt like the game does to Puka, right? 37-year-old, a father, plenty of, burdens in life, right, that go as a 37-year-old father. But at the end of the day, in this kid's game, he felt like a kid in that moment again, and that's pretty cool to see.
Yeah,
well,
really cool.
Les, man, we always appreciate you making time for us, man.
You.
Best of luck tomorrow, and we'll talk to you soon.
We'll always take the luck. Thanks for having me. Enjoy chatting with y'all.
All right, man. Take care. There he is.
Oh, he's
George,
just the best.
That was
so
a
good.
very intellectual, philosophical, high-level football conversation. I love that.
Yeah, and look, I love that he's willing to engage in those conversations. He's not going to obviously give us the proprietary information, but it's funny. The reason I asked that, and he kind of led me there, right, when he was talking about the way he answered that first question, it kind of made me trigger because Chris and I had a text conversation when I was watching Moneyball on this flight about applying it to the radio station.
Well, how we can reduce, cost and, make sure we have 1 star and build around him. And we have that with Sedano.
No, that's not what it was about at all. It was actually about
I agree. That is, it's fire everybody
better
and hire Sedano. Sedano is Jason Giambi.
It was not that at all by any stretch of the imagination. But
trying to get everybody fired, Sedano.
He made me think about that, and it was funny because I feel like they have done that. They went from F them picks, right, to being really smart and drafting really well over the last several years. Not that they weren't smart before, because they were able to lure these guys to come here on buyouts and things of that nature, and they had to convince those guys to come here, and that takes a certain skill set too. But they've been so good at hitting the draft that it's just wild, like how good they've been in the last several years at nailing the draft. The team that most pundits thought felt they were not great at that. And the Aaron Donald conversation that you brought up. And one last thing, Cappy, I'll just say this. A number of the college teams that I've talked to, and one specifically, made mention to me about the Rams' approach in the offseason on how they evaluate players, right? And the proprietary stuff they do that maybe other teams are not. And they have been criticized by other media members, by former NFL people who are in the media and whatnot. Oh, how can you not go to the combine? Blah, blah, such arrogance, this, that, and the other. And it goes to show you that, if you're doing your homework, it doesn't matter if you're in Indy or not necessarily.
Right.
And he said they do have people in Indy. It's just that they have taken a different approach, and they dive more into the film and the analytics and the personal interactions with these particular players to make sure they fit. So a particular college football general manager told me how much they value what the Rams have been able to do, and he kind of explained to me some of that stuff. So that's why I'm glad we were able to get into that conversation with him about it.
And just last thing for me, I mentioned a guy like Cam Curl and how they go out and they find a guy who's a late-round draft choice and he's on somebody else's roster, and he winds up becoming an impact player on this Rams defense. You realize that we did not even bring up Nate Landman, and how that's a guy who is he's an undrafted free agent who really can't stick with the Atlanta Falcons. But Jimmy Lake, who was the defensive coordinator of the Atlanta Falcons last year, says to Les Snead when he comes back to the Rams, because remember he was the assistant head coach years ago with the Rams. He comes back and he says, "We got this guy named Nate Landman who played for us last year in Atlanta. This guy could play." Nate Landman is an undrafted free agent who could not stick with the Atlanta Falcons, who is the play caller and the captain
he's the green dot
of the Rams defense in his first season with the Rams. That's great scouting.
Yeah, no, agreed. They do a phenomenal job.
Phenomenal.
Sedano's the green dot here,
No, he's the black hand.
And the black hand. He's both.